Welcome everyone to F5 Wednesday. Today we'll be talking about API management with NGINX. And once again, we have Doug Turner presenting, who will continue to present over these next few webinars on NGINX. And without further ado, I'll pass it over to you, Doug.
Thank you very much, Ryan. Hello all, for all you there on the East Coast. Good afternoon for everyone that possibly is joining us from the West Coast. Good morning still. Today we'll be talking about API management with NGINX. We will go into not only how you would manage our actual API gateways with our controller product, or at least show some different actual aspects of it. We'll also at the end, as a demo, actually go through a very simple actual API gateway and show you what that API configuration looks like on an NGINX Plus instance. To start, we of course have previous topics. Those previous topics in which we started back in May, where we started with everything including automating big IP for multi-cloud. And through the course of from May to say now, we have actually had an addition, we've had up to say now what is NGINX and how it can help my agency. So if you're interested in seeing any of these particular, any one of these webinars, we have these recordings are available to you at the link at the bottom, which is https://www.linkedin.com/showcase/F5Federal. Each, including the ones which we're giving today, will be available to you at that particular link. So we start off as usual wanting to actually talk about what is the problem and how does that problem actually basically impact you. But I wanted to ask a question, if I possibly can, of everyone. I believe you can raise hands to this. How many of you are at this point are either looking at from a research standpoint, or should I say already in the process of deploying API gateways?
Or we wouldn't mind knowing, if you have APIs in your network and if you're being asked to do anything front end with those APIs, security, manage them, load balance them, do any, provide any kind of service for them.
Support, service, security, what it may be. As I said, underneath, you should be able to raise a hand. If you don't mind, if you can. If not, understand this possibility is not working for you. Okay. From there, we'll get into actually the presentation then. So, to start, APIs are having a huge growth. That growth has started, if you look back at 2006, very low, right? But since that time frame, since 2018, there's been exponential growth in the area as far as the use of actual APIs. You look at folks like Salesforce, portion of Salesforce revenue is 50% of their revenue is generated by API, basically selling their APIs. And the same thing for Expedia. What do they actually do? So API, as far as what we're looking at, it says breaks down silos, right? So when we say that, we mean that being able to actually go cross-organizationally and being able to share information. That could be anything from monitoring or from just pulling just basic statistics from different areas. Increased collaboration, once again, back to the point where you're breaking down those barriers. And act as a communication vehicle for microservices-based apps. We will dwell on that a little bit in this particular actual segment, because what you'll learn is that microservices predominantly is all API driven, as far as either from the front end, back end, or from the services portion out to the different applications and the back end, and represent new opportunities to generate revenue. And which I'll say that is more of what I would think is one of the more important ones. But in the case of federal, we shouldn't look at it as generating revenue as much as we look at it from being able to advance the ability to collaborate with outside third parties, and also to actually accelerate the growth and also say maturity of different actual federal programs through being able to actually expose those particular programs through via API to third parties or research so that they can also collaborate. So NGINX is one of the most, is the high, we can say number one used actual web server or web server at this point in time. We have over 450 million actual web instances that are out. Out of those, 40% of those instances are actually being deployed as API Gateway. And that gets to the next portion. And what we like to talk about is the drivers for agility. So this is going to be a recurring, I would say, theme for us as well as we go through some of these webinars, because pretty much the actual drivers really don't change. So if you were with me last week, you've seen the slide. And if you haven't, well, it's going to be new to you. But what we look at is that the vast majority of businesses are undergoing a digital transformation. Of that, we said organizations say 20% that they really weren't pushing, but 80% are. Also out of that, how organizations, applications are essential or not. So only 2% said they weren't. 30%, 6%, basically leaning toward provides competitive advantage, where 62% definitely looked at it as essential for their business. So adapting to change, responding to threats, and maximizing competitive advantage, or in this particular case, that does not change with the federal government as well. And then as the application landscape is transforming. So 80% of customers are adopting the multi-cloud. But out of that 80%, zero can really give you an actual accurate count of the applications which they have that with any confidence in their portfolio. Then of course, in order to actually accelerate the move from their current actual monolithic applications and moving toward microservices, some have actually admitted to the fact that they have kind of got laxed on the privacy and compliance piece. Then there's a DevOps is rising. As we've seen that even through IDC, that DevOps methodologies, foundations, practices, and principles are starting to be driven into not just the DevOps group, but instead, all that is being pushed into different areas of the business, or should we say lines of business. In the case of looking at, of course, an agency, that would be the departmental levels, the different actual service levels. So meaning that this is no longer basically being kept in one centralized area. Each area is starting to actually customize their applications, customize their communications backends in order to meet the actual goals and also the missions in which they are trying to actually for their particular groups. So 70% of CIOs will use APIs to interconnect automation tools, and DevOps is critical to agility. And last of all, technology is changing. 85% of new applications and workloads will be container-based, and that is growing to 95%. 83% of internet traffic is now APIs, 17% now only HTML. So analytics and API management across the environment is difficult. Of course it is, because again, the reason why is that a lot of people use more than one API gateway. You can get API gateways from Apogee, there's IBM, there's Red Hat. And each one of those, if you start looking at it, that there's going to come with a different way of actually managing, there's going to be a different way of configurations. So that does, again, tie back into, although there's many different actual products, that causes you the other portion of being back into tool sprawl. And then let's talk mainly about the main driver, foundation of modern applications is APIs. If you're looking at anything cloud native at this particular point in time, it is usually the API driven communications. Everything from containerized workloads all the way up through, if you look at its infrastructure as code, it will actually depend on APIs and creating those APIs. So, solution. And that's where I talk to you more and more about L5 and NGINX. So L5 NGINX, we have the capability of giving you control plane and data plane. From the control plane standpoint, we do API management from the standpoint of giving you the ability to have graphical insight, at least graphical intuitive actual access for configuration. We can give you insight as far as analytics, and it makes it simpler for you to take created actual APIs and actually to deploy them. And controller also in the code to customer pipeline, as we would like to look at it, or the DevOps pipeline, has the ability to be integrated into that pipeline, such that now we're part of your actual, we're part of your source control. So now when you're pulling certain actual different applications, API gateways, be it ingress control, or even be it just being used in the application server. We're part of that pipeline at this particular point. So from here, also, you'll look down the line as we get past that. F5 and NGINX have the ability to support you not only from the API gateway, but of course, load balancing, API security, DNS, and also, of course, actually distributed denial of service protection and content distribution. So we have the capability of limiting the amount of tools in which you're using and also consolidating a lot of your use cases. APIs are the foundation of modern microservices, kind of the thing which we've been beating you over the head with is on this particular presentation, but pretty much yes. From front end talking to API, from front ends talking using APIs to talk to the services, to services using APIs to talk internally to each one, within routing, to also those services talking to outside applications and backends. It is mostly at this point, as we showed past slides, API driven. And more, as apps are modernized and adoption of microservices, APIs are increasing. We're looking at a 52% increase in organizations that use microservice concepts, 62% increase in enterprise running 50 or more microservices. And lastly, 25% increase in organizations that are using over 1,000 APIs. And how does NGINX cater to your needs? We cater to your needs by actually giving you a product set that has the capability of serving multiple personas, be it NetOps, SecOps, be it DevOps, or App Dev. In the case of NetOps, and I would say SecOps, we give the ability to actually monitor and we give them the ability to troubleshoot, as well as we give you the ability to actually set down and do governance and compliance. From DevOps standpoint, it's the increase of velocity, the ability to get applications out and do that by actually being able to use things such as self-service portals and also being able to publish and centralize the actual APIs that they're creating. And from an application development, app dev standpoint, we are a NGINX, pretty much a proven actual product. We have everything from microservice architectures to actually working within Kubernetes architectures. So we're easy to implement. We can do Canary from a testing standpoint, blue-green, to test API functionalities as well. And then NGINX from a performance standpoint. We automate API management with CI/CD. We automate by being integrated into the CI/CD pipeline for our customers. We connect actual microservices and API traffic. Most of all, we improve scale and performance. One of the things that we are known for is that as a microservice, we are no more than 2.4 meg on as far as compressed, and on disk we are less than 100 meg. So from a containerization standpoint, as far as from overall microservice, we're very lightweight, even though we are a very highly performing actual platform. And getting more into how do we handle the life cycle, once again, back into controller. Everything from being able to define APIs, monitor, and actually analyze, to being able to have GUI access to be able to deploy the API gateways, and also a REST API that integrates into either, as far as integration into DevOps pipelines, and also REST APIs for third-party integration into, say, things such as App Dynamics for APM or Application Performance Management, New Relic, and Prometheus, and of course, ServiceNow for remediation and closed loop. Again, from looking at NGINX to the life cycle, we have the capability also of giving dev portals. So meaning that, and we'll talk a little bit more about that from controller, but being able to have a development portal where you can bring in third parties, and those third parties can start to develop around the APIs in which, as I would say, as the government or agency, to actually to be able to use those services or consume those services. Most of our controller also gives us capability, of course, of deploying, in this particular case, our gateways, as well as it has capability of deploying as either also as a load balancer and as other actual, I would say, microservice use cases. Mainly, it is the way our architecture also is built. So we're decoupled. So from most cases, you say traditional API management, all communications goes through the control plane, from control plane, then to data plane as far as the execution. In the case of NGINX, control plane does the management, it does the monitoring of all APIs, but as far as all actually incoming traffic, it is routed directly to the data plane, making it simple, fast, and in this particular case, also a little bit better cost efficient because of our performance. Then it's our key capabilities. I won't spend a lot of time on this slide because each one of these capabilities I'm going to talk to you in short about in individual sites. So out of this, I would say API definitions, authentication, rate limiting, and of course, once again, developer portal. But let's go through these one by one. So API definitions and publication. We can do everything to create multiple API definitions to doing a route resources to the back end. And also we can manage the versioning and also import from your SCA and also configure also plus as being a gateway. Authentication authorization, simple as it may be, we actually support being able to set up API keys. We can import API keys. We can integrate with existing IDPs, and also we can validate the JSON web tokens or the JOT authentication. And go along with that, we can even further actually fine-grain that particular communications. Rate limiting, we can set up, specify maximum requests. We can enforce two-stage actual rate limiting, protect API endpoints, and also define multiple rate limiting policies based on what the particular use case in which you're using. Performance and monitoring is pretty straightforward. Basically, in the case of agencies where it may be multiple departments but centralized, giving you the ability to actually keep KPIs and also troubleshoot and also analyze usage and performance of your actual gateways. Dashboarding. One of the main things about our dashboarding is that we give you a standard set of actual views, but it is customizable according to whatever the needs of the customer. And real-time alerting. So pretty straightforward, basically reducing troubleshooting time and efforts to act with accurate, specific, and real-time errors. Support for DevOps. This is our capability of being able to be integrated into a CI/CD pipeline, and being able to deploy and run containers in this particular case. Then we get into developer portal. The developer portal is where we've set up a virtual server that basically is a web server, and that server is can be used to host developers, and we can do that either as internal or external, giving you the ability to actually either brand it that way and to quickly generate and follow up for do onboarding. So part of our onboarding capabilities or our capability of catalog of published APIs, we can actually host and actually store the documentation and also have code samples. So giving that third party the ability to consume your APIs and then also write based on those APIs. Then multi-cloud support. Using NGINX controller with our API management capabilities, you get Katie's ability to flexibly to deploy NGINX. You can also spin up controller and API gateways in any public and private cloud. And make that possible, the NGINX controller is a Docker package, so it is deployable anywhere. And manage NGINX Plus instances on any cloud or any private cloud or public cloud. And last, I would say last, is going to be our technology integration. In this case, this is where we give our RESTful API for consumption and use for third parties. Doesn't matter if it's ServiceNow, from everything from with ServiceNow's ability to actually either pull tickets and actually, or say closed loop as far as mediation. Also from two other application management or performance management platforms such as New Relic and also App Dynamics, and analytics actual crunchers such as Datadog and Splunk. From there, we have a case study we can share with you. It is a situational open banking driving increased needs for API volume, starting at 500 APIs and building out to a API management as a service. Challenge the incumbent legacy APIM solution, adding 500 milliseconds of latency. NGINX controller and API management was consistently below 10 milliseconds of latency. So that's one of our actual, very, very small actual case studies. If you're interested in more information about NGINX as an API gateway, you can reach out to your actual your F5 federal account team, or you can always come to the F5 actual website and look under NGINX, where we have everything from NGINX blogs that can give you insight into technically how we go about configuring, to actually also looking at some of the webinars that we have also pre-recorded also. So at this point, we're at next topics, and that is the end of the actual main portion of the presentation. Next topics that are coming up will be on 10.14, securing containerized apps from within with NGINX App Protect. The host of that particular, for this particular topic will be Ryan Johnson. Of course, he is on with us now. It is one of my co-hosts. Next, after that, will be on 10.21, managing your NGINX instance with NGINX controller, which will be hosted by a gentleman by the name of Michael Coleman. And then last of all, which is also another one of my co-hosts, is Jesse Goodyear, will come in and do the NGINX ingress controller for Kubernetes and discussion in lab. Definitely don't miss that. That will be an actual full lab where you can participate.
Yeah, just to add to that, that'll be a 2-hour session. So if you've registered for it, just please count on it being longer than this one. So it'll run from 1 p.m. to 3 p.m.
Yeah, that's right. I kind of actually saved the last one for Jesse to do the longest one as the increment. So,
yeah, and you don't need anything special for the lab. It's just bring your laptop. It's all web based, so nothing special. We'll send you all the credentials and everything.
Some resources. There's a free NGINX cookbook at www.nginx.com. Resources. Go to the library and you'll see that there's also a complete NGINX cookbook, and there are also some other actual guides as well. And from there, we're getting ready to start the demo. But before that, I want to go through the quick walkthrough with you. Part of this demo is not going to be that long, but hopefully at the same time, it will be insightful as to how our gateways are built. We'll go through an NGINX file structure for the API gateway. I will show you a broad and a precise API definition. Then from there, we'll show you just the custom JSON errors and how that JSON error page looks. And I'll go through and show you one of the errors. And like I said, very simple things. And then we'll look through the API key authentication configurations. We will show you the API key configuration by going through and doing either no key and showing you what happens, and then showing you when you use a valid key. And last of all, I'll do a couple of rate limiting actual shows for you. One we'll do at 10 responses per second, and then we'll do another one at 50 responses per second. So from here, the configuration is such. There is a NGINX Plus instance acting as API gateway. There are 8 backend servers that are tied to this gateway. There are 4 for the inventory service, and there are going to be 4 for pricing service. And from here, we're going to move over and actually show you and start rolling through the demo. So, 1 second. All right, so within NGINX, I always like to start here. And that is to talk to you about file structure. So in this particular case, always within the NGINX file structure, we start at etc. So from there, it's etc/NGINX, and we would either have, in most cases, conf.d files. Within that also within the NGINX file would also be an nginx.conf file. In the case of an API gateway, that conf-d is going to be broken up. There's, in this particular case, to show you the demo, there's the API_conf-d file, which will have the warehouse. In this particular case, we have the warehouse API simple that we'll show you. We will be showing you things such as the API keys, API key, and also the warehouse API conf files. And then we would look at what would be part of, say, the web server, load balancer, and those files. All those are always underneath the conf-d file. So if you notice, we have things such as the status API, we have health checks, as well as we even have in this particular area, we even go into some of the actual, say, in the NGINX conf file. NGINX conf is the main configuration file. Whenever a NGINX instance comes up, the first file that is read is going to be this NGINX conf file. So let's show you what the file looks like. So that file shows you different contexts. There's the first context that gives you the user and the worker processes, and then there's error logging and then where we load our modules. So if you've ever looked, if you have any experience with NGINX open source, you have to compile the modules. With NGINX Plus, you don't have to compile the modules. They already come pre-compiled. But in certain cases, you have to tell it what modules you want to have included. So in this case, we're saying load modules in this for NGINX API-JS modules, and also in this case for JavaScripts. Then there's the events, and then there's the context for HTTP or for web server. In this case, we show what to include as far as MIME types, application types, including the logs and formats. Mainly on this particular page is this section here. This is the includes. The includes always tell the actual load balancer what additional configuration files, or in this case, the instance, what configuration files need to be loaded in order for it to behave in its particular use case. In this case, it would be as a API gateway. As you also see, in conf-d, we're still saying add those files, right? Add all the configurations which are part of the regular web traffic. So let's look at an API gateway configuration. The API gateway configuration itself actually pretty much gives another set of includes. It tells exactly what is the API backends, what are the servers or resources in which the API gateway is actually supporting. Then there's the API keys. This isn't including the API JOT configuration. We won't do JOT, that's more of an advanced actual demo. And for the sake of time on this particular call, I won't have time to go through that one. Also, we talked about rate limiting, and those limits and request zones are set here as well. So it gives the client IP, or at least what the actual response per seconds, and also it will give me the where to find, and also what an API key and how that is being actually supported. And as we scroll down as well, it will give us if we're actually being set up as doing actual SSL, all the certificate information is set here. Also, in this case, we're doing health checks and we're doing proxy header. So it'll give the location, and it'll give also the health check information as well for each one of the services. In this particular demo, we're doing two different services. We're doing both inventory and we're doing pricing. If you notice in the locations, those are set up to be separated and show as separate. And to show you that, there's a little bit more let me show you that from the dashboard. So from the dashboarding standpoint, if you look at it, the separation is done as such, as we're saying, as far as location. So there's inventory service, and then there's the pricing service. And what I like about this, since we're setting up rate limiting, I'll come back and forth to this just to show you what the outputs are. But you'll be able to see exactly what the request, response, and also in the case of when we start going through the rate limiting, you'll be able to see how many actually, what we passed and what we failed, and at least what we denied to let go through. All right, so back again. So let's look at the backend configuration. Backend configuration basically gives the upstream information in the zone, which of course, again, as you saw from the dashboard, was the inventory service. And then of course, this tells what the price and service is, and it gives the actual address of each one of the servers. Because these resources are virtual servers, of course, we're saying all this to actually the port numbers. From there, will show you what the API warehouse API looks like. So when defining the API itself, it gives the definition, gives the location. It also gives what limit or accept to what it would deny all to, and it sets up the upstream site and where to find, or at least when we're doing a rewrite. So rewrite for proxy. How that happens is through this particular set. So what we're doing here is that we're saying we want to rewrite, but when we do the rewrite, we want to include the policy. Well, where is the policy? The policy is warehouse last. We come down to the policy section. That is location underscore warehouse, as it is shown underneath each one of the locations. From there, what we will do is that we will now look at where the rewrite, or at least saying what particular actual URI you're going to. We will match it against the policy. Once we've matched it against the policy, we then proxy pass everything through. And also you'll notice in the API config is also where we would do the rate limiting and where the rate limiting information is set at. All right. So from here, we will go in and we'll actually start doing a few commands. All right. So we're at this point, what I'm getting ready to show you is that we have the capability of doing broad API definitions. So meaning that we'll do very loose match on the URI. And to give you an idea of that, through curl commands, and we'll do all curl commands in this particular case. We did a very loose, loose curl, at least API warehouse inventory. It came back with a 200, right? So now I can show you that again with the pricing. Again, a 200. But now we're talking about this. This is very, very broad. Let's do something that's a little different from that. So we'll go and add a slash. And it takes it. Now let's add foo. And it's going to return again a 200. And kind of jumble it up again, get rid of slash, and just basically do a run and an inventory foo together. Once again, it answers as a 200. And then lastly, we'll say foo bar. And again, because it's loose, it's going to answer, meaning that it's only at this particular point looking at the first portions of the URI. It's looking at warehouse, it's looking at inventory, and it's making a decision to actually route because it doesn't give any defined definitions at this point. So let's change that. So I'm going to change the config. So I will walk you through this, but all I'm doing is I have multiple configs that are already loaded. Change the names, and at the last, I'm moving to the warehouse simple from the warehouse simple config, and I'm moving now toward the actual precise. Now, with NGINX, before this new configuration to take effect, I have to reload the platform. What is going to be nice is that if you look at the bottom window, you will be able to see the reload process as it happens. The commands which I'm running is an NGINX-small t, which will actually check the configuration, and then I'll do the reload. So reload process happened. It is graceful reload. We bring down all the other sessions as they're ending, and all the new worker processes are brought up. All right, so now let's go back again and let's run some of the same actual curl commands. So we'll start with some of the ones that we know will give us a 200. So we'll say inventory again gives us the 200. Now we're going to say shelf, and we're going to change these a little bit, but we have newer actual URIs and new URI. In this case, is adding shelf, it responds. And I'll do a couple more of these to give you the idea that at this point, as we have defined these particular URIs, you're seeing a more defined, you're going to see a longer output. And also when I get to the ones that are incorrect, you'll also see that as well. But in order to show you the configuration again, and we'll finish that piece, but to show the configuration, and for precise, the biggest difference, so let me first go back to simple. The simple, when we did a simple actual definition, as you notice, the API was warehouse just inventory. Anything that had warehouse inventory was responded to. Anything that had API warehouse pricing was responded to. Now, if we go to what we're using now, the definitions have been more defined. So meaning that it's not just inventory that will be responded to, but we have to have a more complete right. So API, warehouse, inventory, shelf, and also, and the additionals, and we're looking at, again, different, say for box, and we're doing specifics for pricing. So now if I go back, and I've showed you what those look like as the specifics. As the specifics, let's show you what happens now that I've actually set the specifics in place, and I've made this more defined. So let's try this particular URI. Now I'm getting a 400 on that particular one. And when we used these same broads before, they came back with 200s. So let's do another. And again, we're getting 400s. So now that the actual API definitions have been more defined, erroneous actual URIs that are being sent in are now being given actual 400 actual errors. Because now we've made sure that because it's more defined actual API definition, that now that is a bad request. All right.
Yeah, I'd like to add for those not super familiar with APIs, these REST APIs, each directory within the URI typically means a different set of data. And so you may want to, based on what the directory structure, what part of that URI, you may want to, as Doug has shown, either allow it or disallow it. And then, Doug will get into this around allowing different methods. So different methods like get will be a read-only method, and then put and patch, those are ones that actually write data to the API. So you may want to limit those. So that's what Doug is kind of going through here for those not familiar with with APIs.
And again, this is still more of the simple security, but still pretty straightforward. He's showing you exactly that you could write a very broad API definition that will allow almost everything in. But the more defined you become with your actual definition, I would say, the more secure that particular API becomes. And exactly as Ryan has stated, that in this particular case, we're showing you some of the really quick, and just show you some of the very, very quick ways that you can filter. All right, so now we move back, and I want to show you a little bit about JSON. We're built this particular API gateway, and all of its definitions and all the APIs themselves have been built on JSON. Now, that's because we decided to do that for this particular demo. That is not, we're not limited to just being able to develop based on JSON. It is up to you. If you plan on using another actual language, you can use that language as well. We pretty much, we don't limit that from you. Okay, so from there, I want to take you through and show you the JSON error page. Easiest way to do this is because, of course, we have these pages set up already, is to take you here and show you what the JSON error configs looks like. So as you notice in the nice, beautiful fuchsia, we defined exactly what statuses we will respond to as the actual gateway. And those statuses go all the way up to a 502 for as far as bad gateway, or at least not implemented, as far as 501 and also 500s for server errors. Okay, so just to show you that real quick, again, now I move over. So we'll do just a quick curl command that I know that's going to come back with an actual error response. In this particular case, doing one that's just a localhost foo-k. And of course, it gives you that bad error response. So just to show you that all of this is being actually generated by the actual JSON errors page. Okay. Now I move you out of this and we start moving into API key at this point. We're right on time. Great. So with API keys, we're going to want to show you what the API key configurations look like. So let's go here first. And this is the basic API key configuration for the API client. It gives basically client 1, client 2, or client 6. And also mainly you need to know what the mapping portion, which is the API, HTTP is the API name. So in this particular key name, we would always be looking for, we know this HTTP. And then we will actually look for the API client name from there as default. Then there's the infrastructure piece, which is part of the mapping as far as the actual infrastructure names. From there, what particular group we place that particular client is client 1, or it could be all the way up to client 6. All right. Then we show you a little bit more of this through the API. I apologize. There we go. My bad. And this is what the API key warehouse API key configuration looks like itself. Number one, it shows you what the location, again, API, the pricing, it shows what the actual limit accepts or what we will allow, like a get and a patch, as Ryan was saying earlier. Also, we talk about upstream and the pricing rewrite, again, that warehouse last and all of that, again, it corresponds with policy. So it's looking for, under warehouse, it'll grab the warehouse name. This is in order for us to log and know that we're logging everything to the specific name of warehouse. Then, of course, there is the key return information. So if there is no key, we're going to, or an unauthorized key, we're going to give a 400. Also, if it's a forbidden key, we're going to say it's a 403. If it passes, of course, we're going to rewrite and put that and actually send that through as it being proxy to the back end. All right. So once again, since I'm going to show you a little bit something a little bit differently, we're going to show you this particular portion. So I tell you, I have to actually go in and change the configurations again. So we're going to do that real quick. And trusty reload. And now that I showed, oh, oops, my bad. I'm on the wrong, I think I'm on the wrong spot. There we go, apologize. All right, so we just did a reload. We're gonna go through and show you a little bit of the API key pieces as far as when we actually submit a bad or unauthorized actual request, a bad or invalid key request, and I'll show you a valid key request. All right, so first, we've got unauthorized. So at this particular point, that is a bad key. Then we have, again, at least that was unauthorized. Excuse me. been forbidden based upon this was an invalid key. And then a key that has to correct that has the correct actual encrypted key. Which of course returns to 200. Once again, just showing you that you have the capability through the configurations to predefine or further say, shall I say, granularly define exactly what access based upon how you're using API keys in this case. So that kind of takes us through that particular portion of the actual demo. And we have one piece left, which is going to be rate limiting. So in the rate limiting piece, we're going to have to go in and we're going to do a configuration change again. So let me do that for you. Alrighty. So we're going to show you, I'm going to show you two different rate limiting schemes, at least not schemes, but examples. To do so, we're going to flip you back again, or better yet, maybe not. Maybe we'll just do from here. So in my warehouse API conf file, and I showed you in the past, was a policy. In this particular case, it's a policy that says limit requests on clients to, in this case, for 10, or to limit for 50. In this right now, I have already commented out the 10. So what we're going to do with this particular case is I'm going to go ahead and vim into this guy, or VI into this guy. And we're going to go down to the policy. Right now I have them set up for 50. So we're going to change that. It would be good if I actually insert. All right. All right. Now, at this point, we're going to have to go back one more time and we're going to have to reload. Remember, I just changed the config. So now we're going to reload again. So now I have it set up for 10. We're going to run a little bit of, we're going to run a vulnerability exploit that's called Vendetta. We're going to run the first Vendetta, basically. Apologize. With that, we're going to run Vendetta. Run the first actual exploit. And notice that out of this, there were 10 that were accepted, 40 that were actually that were discarded. Now I can also take you to the dashboard. And in the dashboard, we would also see that we had an increase of 10s, which before it was only 10. Now we're looking at another 30. It increased to 30. Remember, I'm looking at this right now, it's 47 for the 50. When I go in and change the config, you'll see that increment as well. All right, so back again, showing you that we can do rate limiting at that level. So now we're going to go back one more time and we're going to change the config, and this time we're going to move it up to 50. Yep, and let's do escape. And using Vendetta again, only difference, almost made that one mistake. We didn't reload, did we? This time we're going to do a little bit more of an extended actual exploit. Now showing that we only accepted an additional 48, and also we discarded 202. If I take you to the dashboard, you will notice that it is incremented to 95 as far as accepted, and of course we actually discarded another actual 200 or so. I can actually see exactly, of course, this only gives us that our actual that the health of our actual backend is great. But then also I can show exactly, as far as shared memory, exactly how much memory was actually consumed when we were actually filtering. All right. From there, that's pretty much the end of the actual demo. But I wanted to actually then, as we talked, as Ryan spoke to you about before, and that was we were speaking to you about things such as different methods. So another way we can do things as far as through methods, as far as being able to support actual limiting, is to actually to basically limit what methods can be used to actually use the actual API gateway itself. So meaning that we look at the actual pricing, we would actually do limit, accept, get, patches, and deletes, right? And we would set the upstream pricing service, and we would rewrite that based on policy again. We can do that for also not only the inventory service, we could do that for any of the services that you're setting up. That limits the method in which you can actually work, or at least you can get, or you can use to actually talk to the gateway, meaning that you can get, in this case, you can patch, or you can delete in certain cases, but you would, in most cases, you probably wouldn't have the delete available, but to so many people. All right. And to be honest, that pretty much ends the actual API Gateway demo at this particular point. I will basically shut down the share, and we'll open up for everyone to ask any questions that they may have at this particular time.
Yeah, if you have any questions, please submit them via Q&A or chat. We're happy to answer. Or if you would like to speak up, we can unmute you as well.
Any comments or anything else? Anything is welcome from everyone. Thank you.